right, everybody, we are live and we are back in action, ready to make it happen. Let's go, ready to rock and freaking roll. The Power 32 podcast is here as the NFL wildcard weekend is upon us, ready to go in a couple of days. I can't wait. I got my smart ass co-host with me, Mr. Kenny Culp. What's up, Kenny?
How are you?
I'm freaking great, man. I'm doing awesome. I'm still wearing my Niners hat despite a shitty season, but I still roll with them. But our guest over here is rolling with the number one seed hat right now, the Lions. All right, Mr. Primetime 313 in the house, David Dale. What a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Great day.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here, man. And I appreciate you guys for having me. Been a long time coming, and but yeah, it's finally happening. And Mr. Primetime and the Prophet and Kenny Pickham's live on the east side of Detroit, and let's do this thing.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Yeah, it has been a long time coming. We've been conversing back and forth on YouTube mostly because I dropped all my other social media stuff, and we're like, yo, we got to do this, man. And I didn't even know how old you are. I didn't care. I'm like, no, this dude's for real. He's good. I don't care. And then hit him up on the email, and now I'm looking at him. He's a handsome guy. He's got his Lions hat on. He's freaking ready to roll, man. We're ready to do this thing.
26 years young, baby. 26.
That's it. That a boy. That gray hair is just for looks. That's all. Like DK Metcalf.
Exactly.
Oh, the women love
Right.
The women love the gray.
Right.
See, I'm starting to wonder about that because I got the gray in mine, and I don't feel like I'm getting the ladies anymore, man. It's like I don't know what's going on.
I'm experiencing the opposite. I'm experiencing the opposite, Jason. Yeah,
I don't know.
Kenny's got the baby face, man.
Yeah, I got the baby face, and then I got these little white gray hairs coming in here, and so the ladies are like, "Wow, he's getting old, but he still looks good. This is good genes right here. They're looking for good genes."
The baby face getting the baby boomers. That's what's happening right now. There you go.
There you go.
All right, yo, let's do this shit. We got wild card weekend. We're going to talk about a couple other things like real quick before we get into the actual games. We got NFL awards to give out, MVP, offensive player, rookie of the year, coach of the year, all that good stuff. But just a couple of really quick topics. I want to get you guys' opinion. And since, David, you are the guest, Mr. Primetime, I would like to ask real quick what we saw out of Sam Darnold or what we didn't see against the Lions, man. Like, yo, he was overthrowing people. He looked bad. He was way, way, way off his game. Didn't look like the, I don't know, quote unquote MVP candidate he was looked at all year. Was that a fabrication, or do you think that he can hop back against the Rams?
I honestly think that was a product of what Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, I think that was a product of what he was throwing at him. Because if you look at what Aaron Glenn did defensively, they hadn't blitzed like that all year. And it's almost, I don't think Kevin O'Connell and the rest of the Vikings were ready or even prepared for what was going on there. Sam Darnold, I was blowing Twitter up, or X, I was blowing it up early and saying he was high on a lot of his throws, and you guys saw that. I don't know if the moment was too big for him, but I know the Lions were coming at him, man, in all types of different ways. I do think he'll have a bounce-back game, and I know later on we'll get into the picks. I do think he'll have a bounce-back game, but if he starts off early like that against the Rams, it's a wrap, man. It's a wrap.
Yo, well said, man. Got to say what's up to Philly Special over here. David, I agree with what you said, man. Aaron Glenn put forth a masterful game plan and made that offense with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Couldn't get these guys the ball. Darnold was under pressure. It was a really good job, Kenny. I totally agree with David on that. Not that I think that Minnesota is going to go ahead and win the whole damn thing, but they're still 14-3. They're a damn good team, and Detroit put it on them and showed why they're the number one seed.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts that Jahmyr Gibbs is getting more touches, even though they lost David Montgomery. I feel like giving Jahmyr Gibbs more carries only makes them better. I know that sounds crazy, and I agree. They did a great job putting together a defensive game plan for that game because everyone all year has been saying how you can definitely pass and score on Detroit, and they made sure that wasn't the rumor anymore.
Yeah, so especially now with all the problems they're having on defense, and guys are walking off the field even in that game. They're having players getting hurt, so it is,
and they continue to get better.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Again, no Aiden Hutchinson over there. Just really, really amazing what they're doing. And Philly chiming in over here saying Monty will be back soon, too.
That's not going to hurt.
Well, can't hurt. and we'll see what happens. But no, Detroit is a great team. We're going to talk a hell of a lot more about them, obviously, as we go on with these games. But yeah, Sam Darnold, I think, is definitely a better player than that. He's shown that all year, and we'll see what he does against the Rams. But I got to say that I think the nerves got to him a little bit. It was a big game, #1 seed on the line on the road. I mean, when you're throwing the ball high like that, it usually means that you're a little bit nervous, not that you're really necessarily off. And man, did he miss some wide open guys. Justin Jefferson in the end zone. Really ugly look for Minnesota in that game. But we'll see how they do against the Rams in LA. We'll get to that. David, what about Bryce Young? Has he definitely earned his keep now as the #1 starter in Carolina?
You know, I think first thing I admire his perseverance, going through, getting benched, all that sort of, Carolina, not the greatest organization, not the greatest team in the world. They've had their moments, but I really think the last, 6-7 weeks or so of the season, maybe he's bounced back. He's not on Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix level, but I think he's proved that if you can get the right weapons around him and give him some talent around him, I think he's going to end up being good. Maybe not a world beater, but I respect the fact that he was able to bounce back the last half of the season and kind of show everybody that, hey, there was a reason I was picked as high as I was. And, you give me some talent, you give me some decent coaching, you get him in the right type of scheme. And I think I still think he's a little undersized, but Kyler Murray's made a living of being undersized. There's been some guys in the league, Drew Brees comes to mind when you think of guys that are undersized. So I'm kind of proud of the young man for being able to stick with it, not pout about it, take it like a man, do his thing, and then come back and show everybody, hey, there was a reason I was picked where I was picked.
Yeah, no doubt. He won me over, guys. There's no question about it. He's not playing with confidence, and that's what he lacks, certainly in his rookie year. I mean, that was shown. Obviously, he was not playing well, but also the team that is around him. And right now, again, he doesn't even have that many good players around him. They got a decent running game, which makes his play a little bit easier at quarterback. But Kenny, Bryce Young has definitely impressed me enough to show that he's ready to start for Carolina next year. Just get this guy some help.
I think you're right. I mean, he, like you said, he won you over. Same here. Second half, he looked very good. He started putting up some real numbers. I couldn't tell you if they were in garbage time or not, but I'm willing to bet at least half weren't. And so he's definitely improved. And I know they don't have many weapons right now, but I like Xavier Legette. I love Jatavian Sanders. I like Tommy Tremble. I like Chuba. I love Brooks. I mean, he's got some stuff to work with there. And if he's more confident next year and they give him a good game plan to work with, and who's over there, Canales? Bobby
David Canales.
David Canales. And I know that some people were complaining about him. I think he'll be okay. I think he can, with a fresh start next year, I think he'll do better with his running back there. Hopefully Brooks and two-headed monster running back could work if Chuba comes back, which I think he is returning.
Yeah, look, Bryce Young, he missed a few games, but threw for 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, got better as the year went on, kept his team in games. Beat Atlanta. Now, granted, they had a rookie quarterback too, but they beat Atlanta, who needed that game, putting up 44 points or whatever they did. So, yeah, Bryce Young, good job, well done. Yeah. All right, I mentioned earlier to you guys before we went on air, we had about 5 seconds to talk, but head coaching vacancies, we've got 6 of them now. So my question to you guys is, which one is the most attractive? We got the New York Jets with a ton of talent, all right? Who knows what's going to happen with Rodgers, but Robert Saleh's out. Antonio Pierce is out. Dennis Allen is out. Gerard Mayo is out. Doug Peterson out. Matt Eberflus out. So we got 6 open spots right now. David, is it the Raiders? Is it the Jets, the Saints, the Patriots, the Jaguars, or the Bears that you think a coach would be most interested in going to and trying
You know what? Of course, both of our coordinators are probably the top 2 candidates for a lot of jobs right now.
Yep.
If I'm a head coach, and I can't believe I'm saying this, if I'm a head coach and I'm looking for a job, a little bit of instability in the front office, but they have talent, man. That's the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, he's solid. They'll probably, maybe select somebody in the draft or via free agency. And And Caleb Williams, I'm not 100% sold on him, but I do think if you get him the right coach, like a Ben Johnson, somebody who's offensively oriented, and has proven with what he's done with Jared Goff and that defense. Chicago's got a very underrated defense. They've given the Lions fits at times. They're not the, they're probably a top 10, top 12 defense, maybe statistically, but just offensively, they get a couple guys on that offensive line. But if you just look at their skill positions, man, if I'm a head coach and offense is my game, I might choose the Chicago Bears. The Jets, to me, are a dumpster fire right now. The Raiders, remember last year, Antonio Pierce is our guy, and everybody's playing hard for him. So that's why they gave him and Gerard Mayo kind of in similar situations. They looked good initially, and then the Raiders just fell off the planet. The Drake May and the Patriots, they'd probably be like my third or fourth pick. But I've heard through the grapevine, and you guys probably heard this too, that Ben Johnson is looking to take Mark Brunell and go to the Jacksonville Jaguars because he likes what he sees with Trevor Lawrence.
Wow, that would be interesting. All right. And Ben Johnson, can he call plays? Absolutely. Can he run an offense? No doubt about it. Can he run a team? Be a head coach? That's a different story. We'll see. Now, I agree with you with the Bears. I think that they do have the most talent. The Jets are a close second to me, to be honest with you, but the quarterback position is a little iffy right there. But they got talent all over the place. But, Kenny, I do agree with him. I think the Bears are a great situation. The only thing that I would say would be going against them a little bit is that they're in a tough division. Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay are all in the playoffs right now. So maybe that doesn't make it so appealing. But again, year to year, things change, Kenny. But what do you think? Out of these 6 coaching vacancies, any other ones stand out to you other than Chicago that may be the most attractive place to go?
A quick shout out to Papa J. First time
no
here.
doubt.
I'm so glad he made it. He may have been here before and I just missed him, but very glad to have you. I do like the Bears, but I have a personal thing with the Bears, and I just can't like the Bears. So I would say it's me.
Right.
It's me. I'm going to go Drake May. I'm going to go with that. I like the allure of New England. They just won all those Super Bowls. They have a ton of fans who want to see something new. Jason knows how I feel about Hunter Henry.
You love him. He's got a man crush on Hunter Henry. It's something crazy.
Polk is there too, which I like. I also like that they grabbed Polk. I think he could be very good. Drake May, I think he's going to be a very good quarterback.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm
sorry to cut you off. I just don't, and that's my bad. I just don't like how they did Gerard Mayo dirty. He was the coach in waiting. He was the coach in waiting. They said, this is going to be your team when Belichick leaves, and you give him 1 year with that team? With that team? What do you expect?
I think that the Patriots are still kind of full of them. So they're holding on to the Belichick-Brady era, and they think that everything is just going to be that easy, going forward. And I think Robert Kraft is running out of patience in his older age, and I think they probably expected a little more. But I'm like you, man. I think they did him. If I compared him and Antonio Pierce, the way that Pierce, you kind of saw it coming. Gerard Mayo, to me, was a total shock.
Yeah, Pierce, you kind of
and like you mentioned the divisions, I also like the East. There's a little more. I feel like we could be a little more competitive if I'm in the East.
Pierce, I can get on board with a little bit because he was an interim coach. Then they gave him a shot, but then again, he didn't have such great weapons either. I mean, his best weapon went to the freaking Jets and Devontae Adams. Max Crosby had gotten hurt. I mean, whatever. What are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? Interesting. We'll see what happens with these coaching vacancies. They will get filled soon. These are the kind of things that happen pretty quickly as the Super Bowl approaches. So we'll find out.
So when you say Jets and Bears, like I just like dream away. I just like fade away. I'm not paying any attention to any Bears or any Jets. Sorry.
The Jaguar situation.
It's been too long.
The Jaguar situation could be a good situation. Trevor Lawrence, though, I'm just a little flipped on right now. Like, you should be progressing, not regressing.
Maybe he's not properly motivated.
Doug Peterson came to mind when I thought about the Chicago head coaching job, David, because he's an offensive mind. He's an quarterback type of coach. And Caleb Williams, despite what people think, had a pretty good year statistically. They didn't win. But I think he had something along the lines of 20 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. And like you said, they got weapons, so there is something there.
I mean, that's a very nice rating for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So, yeah, we'll see. Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Rex Ryan, maybe to the Jets if he goes anywhere. Pete Carroll's name has come up. Joe Brady from the Bills. Aaron Glenn, of course. Brian Flores.
Well, whoever goes to coach there better be ready to play in Europe, because you're going to have at least 3 games there every year.
And that would be a downside to me as a head coach, is that you got, if you go to Jacksonville, you're automatically losing 2 home games. You're going overseas. It's like, I don't know if first-year head coach, if I'd want to deal with that, but that's the way that the NFL is evolving right now. So
absolutely,
I think there'll be a lot more teams over the next couple of years, kind of having to me, it's like a suffering. I don't see it as a positive. When you get 1 game, maybe you got to give up 2 home games to go overseas. It's a lot to ask for your team physically and mentally.
Yeah, it is. And they got to do it every year. Why? Because they're the redheaded stepchild of the NFL, the Jaguars, and apparently they always will be. I don't know.
The teams that are in the West actually deal with that a little bit now, and they don't even leave the country. So,
yeah.
Man, when you're in the West, you got to travel way more, and it's very different than going from Philly to Washington to play a game.
Right.
Right, no doubt. All right, you guys are listening to the Power 32 podcast with Kenny Colt, the smart ass. I'm Jason Fearman, the smart guy. Sports prophet, as well known for years and years, making that money for you and me. And we got our guest over here, Mr. Primetime 313, Mr. David Dale in the house. So we're breaking down some head coaching stuff right now. We're going to move on to NFL awards because we know that you guys want to hear about the games. You guys want to have your comments about it. We're going to get to the games and break down each one, no doubt about it. But I figured we'd do a little NFL awards right now. And David, you're just kind of jumping in on this one, that you don't have anything prepared. So you're kind of getting put on the spot over here. So, whatever you come up with, we're not going to hold you to it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're very off the cuff here. Very.
That's it. So, all right. Well, first, you got to go MVP. That's the most important one. And to be quite honest with you guys, I would give it to Saquon Barkley. I'm not trying to make waves over here. I'm not trying to sound like a weird radio guy. Listen to what this guy's got to say. Oh, my God, I can't believe you said Saquon Barkley over Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. But what Saquon Barkley did this year, forget about the 2,000 yards. He became their offense. Jalen Hurts was the offense. It wasn't working out. The passing game, as we know, wasn't there all year. They had a really good defense, so they were able to lean on Saquon Barkley, and they did. I mean, he just did everything, plus catching the ball out of the backfield, scoring touchdowns. Look, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, both amazing years, and their stats back it up. There's no doubt about it. But I feel that, and again, and look, this is fair. You take Josh Allen off the Bills, they suck. You take Lamar Jackson off the Ravens, they suck. But the same thing with, I think, the Eagles. You take Saquon Barkley out of there, they're not the number 2 seed. I don't know, man. I just think what he did this year is unbelievable. He's got my vote, Kenny.
I mean, that would be great, but I have to try to live in reality, which means the NFL is going to give it to a quarterback.
I know. You're right.
And so it's probably going to go to Josh Allen. That's what I would say. But here's what I want to give a little, you know what? Why don't I let Dave go first? Because I do want to talk about someone. I just don't want to say who he's going to say.
Well, Alexander over here does agree with me. He says Saquon Barkley, so that's 2. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And you're right. It's probably going to go to a quarterback.
He'll get Offensive Player of the Year likely.
Yeah, and I think, in the whole MVP, they might as well just call it a quarterback award, kind of like the Heisman. But I agree with Prophet 155%, man. If you take Saquon Barkley off that team, the Maras are, I don't know if you guys saw that Unisom commercial with Saquon Barkley kind of taking a shot at the Maras about them losing sleep over letting him go. They're entirely, this year, considering the way the Philly ended the year last year, I think Saquon came in, man, as like a breath of fresh air. What he did for the running game, what he's done for the defense, being able to kind of grind it out with him on offense and keep that defense fresh. What he's meant to Jalen Hurts, being able to just kind of take a lot of pressure off of him, because basically Jalen Hurts was most of their running game, when you really think about it over the last couple of years. Saquon comes in, man, if I can turn it around, I can hand it to 26, and he can get me 2,000 yards and be a threat out of the backfield, pass protect, just everything that I missed Saquon as a Giants fan as well. it
Yeah.
broke my heart to see him not only leave but end up going to Philly. So I would lean right now if I was an MVP voter. I would probably lean to Saquon.
I
All
love
that
it.
while
I love it.
re-signing Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
What's
really.
that?
At the same time, they were re-signing Daniel Jones. Just
Don't you know what? That's
Don't make
another top for another show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Kenny, before you give your vote, Steve-O's saying you can't give it to a running back when your quarterback has more rushing yards. Case in point, any other team in the NFL, all those rushing touchdowns that Jalen Hurts had would go to the running back for the most
right.
part.
So those
So
would
you
be
could-
Saquon touchdowns.
Saquon Barkley would have a shitload more
Yeah.
touchdowns.
And
right
at
now.
least another 14.
So take that into account. But I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, Steve-O, but it's almost a counterpoint that makes more sense in a way. But Kenny, go ahead. Who's your MVP? It's a quarterback. Which one?
Like I said, I think it's going to go to Josh Allen. I'm going to say, even though he doesn't have the record, they just slipped into the playoffs. I'm going to go Joe Burrow, MVP. 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, almost 5,000 passing yards. Doesn't run out of the pocket. Doesn't scavenge. Doesn't steal touchdowns from the running back. He's my hero.
I know you love him.
Wow.
And listen, he's Dave, Mr. Primetime. He's been on him all year, and I got to tell you, before the year started, Joe Burrow was my MVP. He is nowhere near it now, and it's not his fault necessarily. It's just that even he admitted you got to win your division if you even want to be considered. They're not even in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
But
Yeah,
what
he
if he
made-
wins the Super Bowl?
They're not in. That's the problem. They didn't get in the playoffs, so they didn't even have a chance. They got no
No,
chance.
and I think too, if I'm Cincinnati and I look at the way that Pittsburgh kind of crapped the bed down the stretch, and you just look like, man, if we would have got a game or two here or there, they would easily be switching places with Pittsburgh, and it would be them in the playoffs and
Yeah.
Pittsburgh sitting at home, playing in tea
My
times.
God. Yeah. I'd swap that. I'd swap those teams right now.
Yeah,
Couple-
absolutely.
Couple of quick takes we got over here from Steve-O saying that Burrow is mid-take his weapons away. And
Yeah. He's nothing without Chase, right?
Well, look, I mean, Jamar Chase is one of the
That's
best.
most, but that's most
receivers in the league.
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
One of the best
Most
receivers in the
quarterbacks.
league.
Yeah, Steve-O's messing around because they said that about Brock for the last 2 years, and we always like, come on, man, you do that with anybody, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And McNard is saying Chiefs lost on purpose due to the fear of Joe Burrow. I
Yeah,
love it.
if they
Yeah.
were smart, if they were smart, that's what they did. Because Jason and I said it last week. Nobody wants to see Cincinnati in the playoffs. That's
No.
crazy.
Well, you know what? All of our MVPs are probably not going to be it. Even you're saying Josh Allen's going to win. He might win. I almost give it to him more as like lifetime achievement. Not that I want to spend too much time on this, but I actually feel like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he had better numbers. He probably had the better season. Josh Allen, 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and he did have 531 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns running. So you combine that all together, that's a huge year. Lamar also was nuts. I mean, 4,200 yards, almost 41 touchdowns thrown, only 4 picks, and he had over 900 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. What the fuck? Who does that? That's
And,
sick.
and that's with Derrick Henry.
That is amazing.
Right. That is, you know me, Prophet, for a couple years now. I've never been a Lamar Jackson fan. I
Yeah.
think when it comes to the playoffs, he just, that's to me. That's why I think they should do, they should include the playoffs in the MVP award. I
agree.
just don't. He doesn't get it done, and people are so high on him. And I get it. He's a great regular season quarterback. The same thing they used to say about Peyton Manning, but the difference is Peyton Manning ended up winning some championships, and Lamar, we'll see this year. But I've never been a Lamar fan. The stats are great, but I'd probably give quarterback. I'd probably give it to Josh Allen if Saquon doesn't get it.
And
Yeah,
Lamar
he's
has
got-
one of the most incredible running backs at his disposal, so that doesn't hurt.
No, that helps a lot. I mean, Derrick Henry ran for 1,900 yards this year. Let's not kid ourselves. It's one
They
of the
like
best-
to pile on MVPs though, so I could see it going to Lamar very, very easily.
Yeah,
That's-
well, McLeiner says Lamar, and we got Alexander George popping in here. He's saying that it's Josh Allen. It can go to any one of them. I didn't think. You see, I want to move on, but I feel like Lamar didn't deserve it necessarily last year. I felt like Christian
Agreed.
McCaffrey actually should have got it. So if
Agreed.
he doesn't get it this year and Josh Allen does, I'll be okay with it, even though I feel like maybe Lamar deserves it a little more. All right, let's move on. Offensive Player of the Year. Kenny, you're probably going to say Saquon Barkley because I already went with MVP for him. So you can guess by the way I'm talking that Lamar Jackson would be my Offensive Player of the Year. What he's
Okay, you're
I
just
mean,
gonna swap them out, yeah.
I'm basically swapping him, which may go the other way, but his numbers are crazy, which I've already talked about, Kenny. So I need to not go any further.
Yeah, and I'm already 100% Saquon Offensive Player of the Year. So
Yeah, I probably, since Saquon won't win the MVP,
Right.
you got to give him the Offensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow could probably win too, just
Right.
like you say, based on his stats, but it'll probably go to Saquon since they're going to screw him with the MVP.
Is Papa
Yeah.
J saying Josh Allen for MVP?
yeah, I think he's saying for MVP.
All right. Hey, I think he's going to win it this year.
And listen, if people weren't being careful, because they already had an issue with Hurts going down a little bit, you can't just throw out Saquon Barkley in there against the Giants to break the rushing record. As cool a story as that is, you can't lose Saquon now in that last game on an injury when you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. I mean,
But if not, he would have had an even more tremendous season, and in that case, he probably would have won MVP.
And by the way, they still say that Hurts a cleared protocol. Yet,
Right,
so.
that's not, yeah.
Right. He's practicing, which is kind of weird. I don't get that. But, I mean, look, you may take the push out of it. But, again, if he does have a concussion, if it's got something going on over there, but Saquon can easily run it in. So I'm not going to worry about that too much.
Would you guys, if you guys had the opportunity and you were Sirianni, would you start with Kenny even if Jalen was okay?
Not in a one and done situation. If this was like the last couple games of the season, maybe. But
yeah,
in a playoff
sometimes
game,
people take it
you
like a.
You gotta play your best guy.
Yeah, sometimes people just get a little too in their heads and start getting a little silly and start making some crazy moves and being too careful, this and that. But like we said this yesterday on another show, it may be the last game. You have to play. So.
Yeah,
if he's cleared to play, he's going to play. Bottom line, that's it. There's no question about it, and he makes that much of a difference. If you're going to take his rushing away, that's a problem, though. That's a big part of this game.
If Tua can continue to come back every week,
jeez, yeah,
Hurts should be
willing to, commit Harry Carry on the field to us. So that's a whole story. Defensive MVP. I was looking at the secondary this year. I thought about Patrick Surtain. He had 4 interceptions, 45 tackles, something like that, but I ultimately went with the guy who changed the defense midway through the year, and it was a defense that was not playing good that we expected to. That's the Baltimore Ravens defense, and then when they moved Kyle Hamilton back to safety, out of that slot nickel, it changed the entire defense. Now they're playing like fucking monsters. Kyle Hamilton, to me, is the best safety in the league, and to me, what he does on the field reminds me of the guys of Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, those kind of guys. Takes control, always around the ball. Ball hawk, my defensive MVP, David.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to disagree with that. When they made that move, I was kind of wondering why they put him at the slot nickel in the first place, but I kind of understood because I think wasn't there a time this year they were getting kind of thin at their defensive back position.
Marlon Humphrey was hurt for a while, as it usually is. You're right.
Yeah. So, but Kyle Hamilton, man, like you say, he's a game changer. I love him. However, if I were to have to kind of sidestep that pick a little bit, the guy that I'm thinking of right now, Mr. Brian Branch Kirby Joseph.
There you go.
Okay.
With 9 picks. He changed that 49ers game. And I know it was Brock Purdy and everything, but they didn't need that game, but you didn't want to lose that game either, really. To have 9 picks, I think that's the most that a Lions player has had in probably 75 years or so, something like that. I'm being a little facetious there, but the Lions secondary in general, you say Kyle Hamilton, best safety in football. I would say Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, the combination of, would probably be right up there, maybe top 6, top 7. But if I'm not going Kyle Hamilton, I'd probably go Kirby Joseph.
I like that you go in secondary because, when I think of defensive MVPs, to me, it's either secondary or defensive line. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a defensive end. As you say, what's up to AP in sports with the slur, giving Mrs. Primetime a shout out right now. No doubt. We got to love that. So, all right. I like Hamilton.
Appreciate it, AP.
Yeah. And your guys, you know what? Great call. And they sealed the game, especially Joseph had a couple of picks against the Niners, sealing that game. Ultimately going on to the number 1 seed, playing a great defensive game. So I like that. I got Hamilton. What about you, Kenny?
Well, first of all, the Niners threw that game, so screw the both of you guys. No, I can't prove that, but actually, no. Kirby Joseph is fantastic. Patrick Surtain is fantastic as well. I also like Myles Garrett, but I'm going to go with, I feel like it's the cliche, obvious pick, TJ Watt. The only reason anybody still likes Pittsburgh Steelers is because of that man and because of Mike Tomlin. The only reason Steeler fans are sticking around anymore. He's like been voted the MVP of his team for like 4 or 5 years in a row. He is the most valuable player on the Steelers. The only reason they're in the playoffs, in my opinion. So I've got to go with TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year.
I don't have a problem with that. That would be what
It's not a fancy. It's not a fancy pick, but
no. But that defense is night and day without him. There's no question about it. And he's gotten hurt a few times, and we've seen what they are. I mean, he is a one-man wrecking crew. There's no doubt.
And if you remember, 2 years ago when we played them, first game of the year, 3 sacks against us, didn't he? 3, 4, 5 sacks against us in that first game. So the only bright spot on that team.
He's a destroyer, no doubt. What were you gonna say, David? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with Ken. Said that he's every year, like you say, I know he sells probably more jerseys than anybody else on the Steelers. He kind of reminds you of James Harrison, the way that James Harrison, former Steeler, the way that he just dominated. And when you game planned as an OC and a head coach, you wanted to know where he was at all times. And the thing is, the great thing about Watt is that you know what he can do. You game plan against him, and he still wrecks you every week after week.
No doubt. Absolutely. No question. Yep. There are some guys out there that just have that absolute gift, and he is one of them. No question.
James Harrison, one of my favorite players. Why? Because he was an undrafted free agent. I always loved
James Harrison, one of my favorite players. Why? Because he's the only human being on earth who actually scares the shit out of me. That guy is one of the scariest things in the world. All right. Yeah. I am afraid of him. If I saw him in the street, I'd run the other way. All right. Mean man. No, great player. Unbelievable. If you ever get a chance, they did an NFL films or documentary on him. I don't think he cracked a smile one time. He is just
I missed those old videos that had like a dun 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 dun.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Slow motion. Interception in the Super Bowl, man. Interception in the Super Bowl. Fumble recovery or interception.
One of the greatest plays of all time.
Come on, it's Marcus Spears this big man balling. That was
right. And at the end of the half, I mean, literally, Arizona's like on the goal line, ready to score a touchdown. And out of everybody, James Harrison makes the interception, takes it all the way back. And it wasn't easy to take it back either. He needed his blockers. He needed to break a few tackles. It was unfucking real.
A pick six for anyone but a cornerback is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah, not bad. All right, so that's defense. So we got a couple more categories. We have our offensive rookie of the year. And guys, I'm going with Jaden Daniels. There are a couple others in there that we could talk about, but he had almost 3,600 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, only 9 picks for a rookie quarterback who led his team. Yes, I'm saying led his team. He is the leader, 12-5. This was a team that sucked. Washington was no good. They had to change their name. That's how bad they were from the Redskins to the Commanders. Right? Jaden Daniels comes in. Now they got a legit franchise for a long time to come, David.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even close. It's not even close with Jaden Daniels. You know, he made, Dan Quinn, made Dan Quinn look really, really good this year.
Yes.
And to be able to come in the league with all the hype, and I wasn't 100% sold on it, but as the season went on, you kind of saw, man, that this kid's he's the real deal. And when you look at Washington, when you really, really think about it, their receiving core is not the greatest in the world.
No, you're right.
It's not like they're trotting the greatest show on turf out there. Terry McLaurin is good, but I wouldn't.
He can also be bad, Terry.
Exactly. I wouldn't say he's a top 5.
And he can be scary.
Yeah, but he's Jaden Daniels, for what he's done, man, to come in the league, and especially in a division where you got Philly and we know what Dallas was supposed to do. Comes in, man, and he looks like a 5-year vet. The kid is amazing, and I'm really stoked, even as a Giants fan. I'm really stoked to see what this kid's going to be like the next few years when he really realizes how good he can be, and when he gets a couple more weapons around him.
No doubt. And we're getting a good one. Hey, Tyler, what's up, man? Tyler McGurk.
What's up, Tyler? That's my man. Tyler
Love
McGurk, Fat Boy Fadeaway.
Yeah.
Going with Brock Bowers, who broke Mike Ditka's tight end record for receptions this year, and he did it on the freaking Raiders, dude, with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and my next door neighbor. I mean, that's unreal.
And another guy,
Unreal.
right? Was it Desmond Ritter too, or somebody?
Yeah, Desmond, get rid of him. Exactly.
Yeah.
I honestly thought he'd be better in the league. I missed on that one.
Yeah.
Unreal, man. What about you, Casey? What do you got?
Oh, me? I think it's in the bag for Jaden Daniels. I don't think anyone can believe how incredible he was. If you're the Bears, you got to feel a little crappy about that because you could have had Jaden. I feel like he's
CJ Stroud too.
Yeah.
David McKnight is
that's why
kind of
I
on your
have
side over there. Bum of the year, Caleb Williams.
I saw that. I like that.
Wow. I don't know about bum of the year, but yeah, I think it's 100% in the bag for Jaden. I do want to show some love to my boy, Bucky Irving, though. 207 carries, almost 1,200 yards, 400 receiving, 8 touchdowns rushing, averaging almost 5.5 yards per carry, which I think 6 was Emmitt Smith, right?
I'm not even sure, but
I think it was 6, and that's incredible. And he did it on this team where they lost Mike Evans, and they also lost who's the other
Godwin.
Yeah,
Godwin. They lost both those guys. Bucky wasn't even the lead back at that time. He was sharing, and he was behind Rachaad White. He came to the surface, and he percolated, came to the top, and showed everyone who the man was there. And he took that, and if he wasn't hurt, he would have been even better.
Yeah,
I think it's a great ball. I love it. I love it. It's a little bit out the box, man. He's probably not going to win, but he deserves recognition, bro.
Baker should buy him a Toyota.
Baker
buy him a car this year.
Playing great. Baker playing really good football. What about defensive rookie of the year? A little bit harder to gauge because the stats aren't there, but I had called it from the beginning, and Kenny knows this, that the Rams defensive tackle, defensive end / linebacker, Jared Verse, I picked him for a defensive rookie of the year to begin the season, and he's given me no reason to think otherwise. He had almost 100 tackles this year, 4.5 sacks, a couple of forced fumbles. Him and that guy Fisk, Brandon Fisk, I think it is, 2 rookies dominating the line for the LA Rams. And so I
think it's Braden, but
Braden. Yeah, I think you're right. Braden Fisk. Yeah. So I'm going to go with him, Kenny.
You know, I got to be honest with you. I mean, you're probably right. You called it right off the bat. I said Latu that went to the Indianapolis Colts. I said that he would be the offensive or defensive rookie of the year. Didn't happen. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't really follow too many defensive rookies too much, except for one guy. So I do want to give him a little love. Drew Phillips, who went to the Giants. Halfway through the season, you could have had an argument that he was going to win defensive rookie of the year. And then the Giants pulled the Giants that they do, and it's the Giants. And so it happens. And even when you're on defense for 45, for 90% of the game, there's only so much you can do, But I think he did a great job. And I think they had a great draft, a very nice draft, the Giants.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that I think Drew will probably go by the way of a lot of other good, the Xavier McHenrys and the guys that the Giants do when they do find somebody really nice on defense. Other than Dexter Lawrence, they don't stay.
That's a shame too.
It is, and I think as long as the Giants keep struggling like this, not only are they going to struggle on the field, but they're going to struggle to keep a lot of their good players. I think Dexter Lawrence is just a loyal type of guy, but you get some of these younger guys that come in and they're good, and they see that the direction of the franchise for the Giants and the way that they're going, they're not going to stay. And I think that's a big part of what us Giants fans have to face going over the next couple of years, because it's going to be tough sledding until we get an O-line and be able to really consistently start keeping some of them guys. But yeah, Drew Phillips. But as far I agree with Prophet though, Jared Verse, and I think he was everybody's preseason, a lot of people's preseason pick for defensive rookie of the year, and he hasn't done anything to me to relinquish that or to get people jumping off of that bandwagon.
They weren't completely able to replace Aaron Donald, but I think they did a really nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't replace a guy like that who takes on a triple team every freaking time. But Jared Verse, he really did his thing, man. And the Rams defense is all the better for it. We'll see how they hold up against Sam Darnold, who may be the comeback player of the year. I'll give you his 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. I mean, I can't think of many other guys. J.K. Dobbins, maybe, but Sam Darnold is the guy that comes to mind to me, Kenny.
And Sam didn't have some incredible running back over there. No disrespect to Aaron Jones Sr., which I don't love, but he didn't have some incredible Derrick Henry Saquon year.
Agreed.
He was Hawkinson for a lot of the time, and they were having a little. Even though they didn't lose games, they were having issues a little bit in the back with the secondary. But I think it all worked out for them. And he led that team. Look at the record on that team. I mean, that's his job, is to win games. We used to say it when Jimmy Garoppolo played badly. We're like, he won. Yeah. You just got to win.
And that's why, I'm sorry, that's why I used to say the same thing about Tim Tebow. I hated the guy, but the guy was winning national championships. I got tired of hearing his name all the time.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing that's going to hurt Sam Darnold is that a lot of people are going to look at that last game of the season.
Yes.
What he did against, what he didn't do against the Lions. And if they can get that out of their minds, and if they can kind of get that, okay, let's look at everything as the collective and see, like you say, statistically what he did throughout the course of the year. They rolled. The Lions, of course, were the darling of the league this year, but Minnesota was right there. There was local radio here talking about, the Lions would be resting guys come week 12.
Right.
Nobody was expecting the Vikings to do what they did, and Sam Darnold. But I would probably, and this is probably gonna, I don't even know if he qualifies. But what Baker Mayfield has done, you can't. Every time people count that guy out, he scared the hell out of me last year when he played the Lions in the playoffs. They were a couple of bad plays from winning that game. You look at what he's done this year. Kenny mentioned Bucky Irving earlier this year, so Bucky took a lot of pressure off of Baker. But
didn't they beat you guys this year? They beat you guys earlier this year, right, David? Tampa.
They did. They were one of the two. Yeah, at home. They beat us at home.
Right.
And Baker always makes me nervous because the guy don't quit, man.
That's right.
He's one of the best. He's one of the toughest competitors in the league. But I would, if he qualified for that award, I would probably give it to Baker.
I like it. I'm not sure exactly if he does qualify because I think they made the playoffs last year. But his game has improved. There's no doubt. And when Evans and Godwin went down, he was doing things with Jaden McMillan. Who the hell is that guy? Well, that guy's scoring touchdowns for Baker Mayfield right now.
Yeah, what a great.
So no doubt he has resurrected his career, and he's a perfect example of a guy going to a shitty team to another shitty team, and then getting a little bit of good coaching with the Rams, kind of like Darnold did with the 49ers, going on to your next destination and putting that work in and doing what you got to do. Baker Mayfield has been ripping it up, Kenny, no doubt. But who was your guy?
Well, let's see. What are we doing again?
Well, we're doing comeback player. Our last category is
it's definitely Sam Darnold. I don't think that there's anyone else that comes close to Sam Darnold. Yeah. My pick, I think, in the beginning of the year was Kirk Cousins. That was a disaster. The Falcons really let me down this year. I banked on that division, man.
But Kirk got his bag, as he always does.
Of course.
And then that bag is real heavy, so you can't run as fast and you can't throw as hard.
And I read something today, too, that they're thinking about, they're happy with bringing him back as the number 2 next year. That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting dynamic.
That'd be the most expensive backup in the history of football, man.
I mean, if he wanted to renegotiate and chop down his price there and then do some dead years or whatever at the end, but I mean, it sounds like crazy.
Kirk ain't doing that.
Why don't you just send Kirk to Cleveland and send Deshaun to back up Boo?
That's my prediction for the offseason. He's going to reunite with Kevin Stefanski.
It seems like it makes sense. Yeah, you're absolutely. I think you're right.
Interesting. And it'd be interesting to see what happens with Sam Darnold and the J.J. McCarthy dynamic. Does the team trade for either one of them? A lot of it depends on how Sam Darnold plays in the playoffs. If he plays well, they're going to probably have to keep him and try to trade McCarthy for a high draft pick or something like that. I mean, Minnesota may have themselves some options coming up.
Real
You still
quick,
got Daniel
what
Jones,
happened
too.
with Tampa? They had to
Yeah,
keep Baker, you
Daniel
know?
Jones.
Tampa got into that same situation, and then they had to keep Baker, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, now that they have to keep Baker, now you're stuck with Baker," and it wound up working out.
Now you're
Yeah.
happy with Baker, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to the games, but let's do our last category, Coach of the Year. And, you know, Mr. Primetime, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, and I think that he got a lot of help to get there. I thought about Andy Reid, I thought about Jim Harbaugh, but I went with Dan Quinn. And yes, he's gotten a lot of help from his rookie quarterback in order to get there, but you can say that his rookie quarterback got a lot of help from the coaching staff as well.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn, more of a defensive guy, obviously, and got that defense playing a hell of a lot better. I mean, Washington was scoring points, but they went through a stretch in the midseason where they were only scoring maybe 17, 20, 23 points a game, which really isn't a whole lot in today's NFL. So I looked at Dan Quinn and that team and the culture change, if you want to call it that, whatever terminology you want to use. I think that the resurrection and turnaround of that team, and if it not be for the Eagles, who were one game better than them, they could have won this division with a rookie quarterback. So Dan Quinn, great job.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, who's the OC over there in Washington?
And where?
In Washington, Kingsbury.
Oh, Kingsbury. Yep, that's right.
And so Kingsbury turned down some jobs and some high-profile college jobs to go over to Washington and work with Jaden Daniels. I'd probably give it to Quinn too, just based on what you said. You know, the whole dynamic that they, you know, just the fact that they sucked, for lack of a better term. You know, they weren't good at all last year, and for them to be able to come in and Dan Quinn, they made the right move by bringing Kingsbury in. They made some smart moves that Washington's not really known for, making smart moves.
Right.
I think they kept Ron Rivera a little bit too long. I think, you know, some of the, you know, the quarterback situations with the Tyler Heineke experiment, all that type of stuff in the past. But I think they finally got their shit together. Pardon my French.
You may say that.
You know, bringing on Kingsbury and drafting Jaden Daniels. Dan Quinn has done a really, really good job of holding that team together in a division that was supposed to be tough, and it turned out that Washington, to me, was kind of one of, if not the biggest surprise out, you know, in the entire season, outside of a team that we'll probably talk about as we, you know, finish out the show.
No doubt. Very well said right there. So, yeah, him and I are both on Dan Quinn. There are other coaches that are deserving of it. I mean, it's hard not to think of, you know, Dan Campbell at 15-2 or Andy Reid at 15-2, but they like to go with new blood, right, Kenny? So are you going with the new blood, or are you going with some old heads?
I mean, it's very hard not to say Andy Reid, even though it's Andy Reid and it's the Chiefs, because he did face a lot of adversity this year with injuries.
Yeah.
There were a lot of injuries. They lost like a guy here, a guy there, the running back, and the backup running back. They were taking guys off the street and making them fantasy superstars overnight.
Yeah, I got a phone call from the Chiefs, by the way, earlier this season to play running back.
Oh yeah, right. I saw a message on there. I didn't answer it because it was the Chiefs, but yeah. And so, but I do like somebody better, and I like Harbaugh, and I like what he did for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And
He'd
that
be my
defense, he lost Dobbins too at one point. And I was like, oh, the Chargers are done. We could just forget about the Chargers. No Dobbins anymore. I remember the game after that, nobody did well. The problem is that Herbert always goes off in the second half of the season, and so that didn't hurt. And the defense has been really, really, really good. And when they wound up beating Denver a couple weeks ago, I was sold on the Chargers, and I like Jim Harbaugh.
I think it's a great call, no doubt. I mean, they basically have, for the most part, the same roster, maybe even a little bit less, because losing wide receivers like Keenan Allen, Michael Williams, Austin Eckler, you know, taking all that core out of there, gone, and just leaving Justin Herbert. So I like that call a lot. Alexander George, who's chiming in over here, he likes Dan Campbell, saying Lions follow up with another great year with another team. Lions have many years of darkness ever since. Sanders
Absolutely.
He's a great
Another
call.
great
I have
guy.
no problem if he wins.
I honestly think they might give it to him just because he just, you know, kind of like you said earlier, Kenny, about Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I mean, the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think you're talking about Josh Allen. I think Dan Campbell should get it, but I wouldn't, you know, either him or Quinn or Harbaugh. Harbaugh would be my second choice. I wouldn't be mad at any of the three of those guys.
And again,
Campbell's like the ultimate player coach. They friggin' love that guy.
Oh, yeah,
He brought
they
a
love
bunch of ex-players.
I think he still thinks he can play.
A
He
great
probably
atmosphere.
can. I'd be afraid.
Yeah.
That's another guy I'm afraid of, honestly.
Oh, he could be
Very
PE 3. He had tight end 3. Just no
Him and
problem.
Mike Tomlin would make a badass tag team match in freaking pro wrestling, bro. I'll tell you.
Oh
that.
my God.
Holy
That'd be
shit.
funny.
But Dan Campbell, another reason why you consider him is all the injuries they had this year, and they were
Oh, my
able
God.
to overcome it. No
Oh,
doubt.
Decimated. They had
Yeah,
17 guys at one time that were on injured reserve.
Oh.
8 of their starters on defense at any given time. They started off with losing Marcus Davenport.
Right.
Then you go on during the season, you lose Hutch, you lose
Mm.
Kaminsky, you lose Muhammad, you lose Aleem McNeil twice.
Yeah, twice.
Malafanu, who kind of came on the end of last year as a really good defensive back. They lost. And Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell just kept plugging them in. Hey,
Yep.
Kenny Pickens, you want to play for us? Let's go. Hey, Prophet, you want to play for us? Let's go. And they did what they had to do week to week. People thought they were going to totally fall off the face of the earth when they lost Hutchinson. And the defense for that middle or that last 5 of the last 7 games kind of played like crap. They gave up over 150 points. They were getting up 30 points a game. And then the last couple games and Aaron Glenn was just able to piece it all together, man. But the injuries for the Lions were just it was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that, especially for starters.
Wow. Unbelievable, really. And again, to go 15-2 after all that, unbelievable. And that's why the Lions are the number 1 seed, and that is why they have a bye in the NFC. Way to go, Lions, after an NFC championship against our 49ers last year. A game they probably should have won, but here they go this year. They are the favorites going in. They got home field advantage. We'll see what happens, but they're not playing this weekend. All right? NFC games we will talk about, but we're going to start with the AFC, where the Chiefs got the number 1 seed. Big fucking surprise there. Patrick Mahomes. Really. But the first game on the schedule is the Chargers and the Texans. The game is in Houston. And just to preface this, guys, a little bit, I am not impressed with the Houston Texans at all this year. I know they have a couple of key injuries, but you know what? Who doesn't at this time of year?
Right.
The Chargers got their injuries also. Everybody does. I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game no matter what. 20-13, 20-17 tops. I don't see anybody really going over 20, 23 points. But the passing game of the Chargers has picked up recently. Now, Derek Stingley Jr. is a very good cornerback, so you may want to shade away from him.
Yeah.
Go to the other side, see where Quentin Johnson is, Joshua Palmer, so on and so forth. But Ladd McConkey is your guy. That guy has been killing it, this rookie.
Yeah.
Another guy who could be in the Rookie of the Year mention, all right?
Easily.
So I do think that the Chargers are a better team. As much as I love DeMeco Ryans, I think they're better coached. Jim Harbaugh, again, like Kenny mentioned earlier, turning this team completely around. I think they win a low-scoring game. And again, Houston, I thought they would have been a little bit better this year, but I feel like, in a way, they've taken a step back. Now, David, does that have to do with losing Nico Collins for a while, and now Stephon Diggs being out for the entire year, and Tank Dell being out, Joe Mixon missing time? Do you attribute that to more of that, or do you think that Houston is going to have some problems this weekend?
I think Houston's definitely going to have some problems this weekend. By the way, take the under in that game.
Yes, agreed.
I would. The first team.
I already
20
did.
Exactly. So, I think the emotional variable in that, and losing Tank Dell, even though it was later in the season, and the Nico Collins thing was kind of more in the middle of the season, like you mentioned, they've lost various guys to injury, but like you say, who hasn't? Steve-O just chimed in and said that Stroud basically regressed. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think it was, last year he was everybody's darling. Oh my God, look at what Stroud's doing. Look at the numbers he's putting up. But to me, this game is going to come down to coaching, as most playoff games do. And if I'm going to put my money on a coach in a big game, I'm not going to pick a DeMeco Ryans over a Jim Harbaugh any day of the week. So I've always been a Justin Herbert fan. I love my Oregon quarterbacks, some of them. And I think what Jim Harbaugh has done with that squad this year, and look at it too, Herbert's rushing has kind of picked up a little bit this year.
Yes.
The last half of the season, he's become a lot more mobile. He's not that statue back there anymore. He's a big dude. I don't. There's no way that I see the Texans beating the Chargers this week.
I'm with you, man. I know home field advantage can be a big thing if you got crowd noise, especially in the dome that they got. But is that going to matter, Kenny? Is that home field going to get Houston over the hump, or did the Chargers have too much with a defense, by the way, that was ranked 32nd last year and is ranked now, what is it, second or first?
Second or third. I think it's second or third.
Unbelievable.
Just unbelievable, incredible. You said the only name that I really fear on the Texans, and it's Stingley Jr. Stay away from that man, and you'll win this game.
Yeah.
Stay away from Stingley Jr. You will win this game. The Texans have an issue at quarterback, in my opinion, and at O-line. I think that they're not really doing a great job of protecting him, and he's not having a great year. I don't think that's why. I just think it's a little sophomore slump. Steve-O has said this in, earlier in the week as well, that it's his sophomore slump, and that's totally understandable for a young quarterback. I picked him to be the offensive player of the year or the MVP or something, because after last year and then getting this tremendous team that they got him, I thought he was going to go off, and it just didn't happen. So
yeah, they never the big numbers this year. They really didn't. We're all in the Chargers. We all agree it's probably going to be a low-scoring game, and you better hit your field goals in this game, because it's not going to be.
That's what I see, like a 23-19 game. I see a lot of field goals.
That makes sense, man. That makes sense. Yeah. Very possible. All right, so that is our first game of the weekend. That'll be followed by Pittsburgh playing Baltimore for the third time this year. Usually, you can bank on that being a 3-point game, right, David? But I don't know now. I mean, the only thing is now Zay Flowers has been ruled out for this game. He's probably their best wide receiver. Now, their offense is not predicated around throwing the ball necessarily, even though Lamar Jackson has proven he can do a really great freaking job at that. But now it's going to be Bateman, the two tight ends, and Andrews and Likely, but Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I think the way that they win this game is by them running the ball, controlling the clock, all right, and keeping Russell Wilson on the sideline, because when they come on, you know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball on first down. They're going to get maybe a yard or two. On second down, they're going to try a short pass. They're probably going to be incomplete. Then they're going to try to throw a bomb to George Pickens. And that's 50-50, maybe it's 60-40, whatever. But their offense is so predictable, and Baltimore knows it so well by now. But then on the other hand, guys, Lamar Jackson has struggled against the Steelers a lot. He's got a losing record against them. It's a different team now, different quarterbacks, different whatever. But you know what? It's still Mike Tomlin on that sideline, Kenny.
Yeah, and as much as I love Mike Tomlin, and I said he'd be coach of the year this year, at the end of the year, in the beginning of the year was looking good for him.
Yeah.
And then it didn't go so good. I think if you have Justin Fields in there, you could have lost the last 4 games with him. You didn't even need Russell Wilson. You know how I feel about Russell Wilson. I just don't trust him. He's the only thing I really, really don't like on the Steelers. When you talked about Zay Flowers, as someone who had him on his fantasy team all year, he had a ton of yards. He was a good player, but he didn't really produce much. He wasn't the touchdown guy. He was not really being focused on. It was Rashad Bateman. It was Isaiah Likely. It was Derrick Henry.
He was good between the 20s, though. Between the 20s, Zay Flowers.
He'll get you on a 30-yard pass like a DK does, or like Evans does. One pass, 30 yards. He can do that to you. And he's super fast. But not having him, I don't think, is enough to steer it towards Pittsburgh. So definitely the Ravens for me.
Yeah, David, I'm the Ravens with him. It's just I think they got too much of a running game, and Pittsburgh doesn't have enough offense. And with Baltimore playing as good as they are on defense now, I don't know if they're going to cover 9.5 points, but Baltimore should win.
It's a little.
No, I don't either. This is like LSU, Alabama. 9-6 type thing. This will probably be a. It's going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly. And what does that always favor? It favors the running game. Profi, you hit it right on the head with the predictability of the Steelers' offense. You're going to give it to Najee on first. You're probably, do something stupid on second down. And picking over/under on his meltdowns. Hey, what guy's trying to do that job, man? What the hell? I got over/under on his meltdowns at like 5.5. What is happening to that guy over the course? I mean, it's not the Keyshawn, give me the damn ball, but it's just something's up with this. Something's not right with that guy. He's got like Antonio Brown syndrome or something.
Right?
Early CTE, maybe.
He must have his old locker.
Yeah. So I don't. There's no way the Steelers win this game. This could be actually. I was joking about 9-6, but this could be like a 30-10 type game, and it could get away from the Steelers early. And we all know that they don't have the comeback ability. They don't have that type of offense. They're very limited in the weapons that they have. And if they get down 10 zip, 14-3, something like that early, it's a wrap. And I think John Harbaugh might just, he's got a little nasty side to him. He might pour it on. I could see this easily being a 30-10, 35-16, 17 type game. I could see it get double digits.
Yeah, man, I hear what you're saying. And Kenny, I think the only way that Pittsburgh can win this game is by getting turnovers deep in Ravens territory.
Yes.
That can happen. Lamar can be careless with the football. He may fumble. Derrick Henry probably not going to fumble, but if you get an interception, they're going to have to create turnovers, Kenny. Otherwise, I don't think they have a chance.
See, that's the problem. You know who is going to have turnovers likely? Russell Wilson. He's probably going to have a fumble. He's probably going to have an interception. It's classic Russell Wilson. He's going to rely on his long passes to get them down the field. And Boswell's going to have to nail some field goals from 60 yards to win this game. They're going to need a lot of luck. They need a lot of luck.
They might have to pull Dan Campbell out, page out of Dan Campbell's book and go for it on some fourth downs, which is very
you got to be aggressive. Try and screw things up.
It's the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see how many opportunities they get. If they can find success running the football, I think it's going to come more the way of Jaylen Warren than it is going to be of Najee Harris. I think he brings more. He's a little more dynamic.
Yeah, they've been using Warren a lot more.
Yeah, I like that kid. He could play, no doubt. All right, let's keep it going. Our last AFC game, to me, is the most intriguing one, and that's the 7th seed Denver Broncos going to the number 2 seed Buffalo Bills. Denver, they're a better team than people think. Forget about the 38-0 against the Chiefs. That doesn't mean anything. The Chiefs are sitting everybody.
Yeah,
Denver has proven that they can play. They've proven that they can come back in games. Their defense is really good. I know they've had a few hiccups, a couple of 30-point games that they let up here and there, a little bit toward the end of the year, but you got a shutdown guy in Patrick Surtain that you can guarantee on one side of the field. Now, the weird thing is that the Bills really don't have a number 1 wide receiver. So whoever
they don't need one.
And they don't need one. So maybe that complicates things a little bit, but overall, they got a really good D. Buffalo's D is pretty good, okay. But what I think is that both offenses are going to score. I think this will be a higher scoring game than most people think, David. I think the Bills win it, but I think that Denver covers the 9.5 points that they're underdogs right now. Or I think it went down to 8.5. I think it'll be close.
Yeah, 8.5.
8.5. But I do think Buffalo and the probable MVP Josh Allen pull it out.
I agree 100%. I believed. I love Bo Nix, again, another Oregon quarterback. I was calling it out earlier in the season. A lot of people, they got off to a kind of a rough start, but Bo Nix kind of, got his feet under him. He's got Sean Payton working with him, so that, that doesn't hurt. They don't, when I think of, they kind of do everything by committee. There's really, they don't have those 1 or 2 guys that just stand out other than Patrick Surtain on either side of the ball that you say, man, that's the guy. But they kind of do everything by committee, and they, this guy steps up 1 week, this guy steps up the next week, whether it's the running backs or the receivers, their offensive line. And I think that's one of the most underrated reasons for their success this year is that their offensive line has played really, really well, protecting the rookie quarterback. And Bo Nix is not average rookie. He's older. He's kind of, he's a couple years older than your average.
Oh, yeah.
Rookie.
He played like 700 games in college or something like
that. Exactly.
So
he's got some experience under. He played for a good coach at Oregon. And I do think I could see this being a 34-30 type game. No doubt. I do see Denver covering, but I don't see them beating the Bills. I think Josh Allen is too much of an XYZ factor for Denver to be able to overcome that on defense.
Well freaking said. I couldn't agree more. And I do. I'm with the Bills, but I know Denver's going to give them a fight. And look, we got 2 rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs. You mentioned Jaden Daniels. We're going to get to his matchup against Tampa in a little bit. But Bo Nix has gotten better as the year has gone on, Kenny. And I see a lot of confidence in that kid.
Yeah, I really thought that Denver was going to beat the Chargers a few weeks ago in that game. And when they didn't, that's when I gave the Chargers their respect. Like I recently I know they're like 15-2, but I recently just gave Minnesota the same respect because I believe that they were a joke. I couldn't believe that they were winning these games. The fact that they were like 30 wins from the top 2 teams in that division is insane. I agree. Bills win this game strictly because Josh Allen. That's why I'm going to pick that. If not, I really like the Broncos. I like the way they play. I like the way, like you said, they're a team. Everybody on that team is playing together. It's not 3 or 4 guys. It's not a top-heavy team like that.
Right.
And so,
Kenny,
you
ask any average football fan to name 5 players on that team, they would struggle.
It would be hard to not name, like, the quarterback, the wide receivers, and the running backs, right? Anyone but that. And so one thing you can do on the Bills is you could run on them, but I just don't have the faith in Estime and McMillan. It is, right? Is McMillan? McLaughlin. There you go. Those guys, I'm not saying they can't play well, because I have seen them play well. I just don't think they're going to be able to run like that on the Bills, even though you can run on the Bills. And I think that Josh Allen, every time he touches the ball, is very likely going to score a touchdown. Can you keep up with that?
It's going to be hard.
Surtain is fantastic, but they don't have like a Malik Neighbors or like, an Olave. They don't have a number 1 like you mentioned, and so it's going to be tough to lock anyone down.
Cortland Sutton's a good player, no doubt, but he doesn't scare the shit out of you. He doesn't keep defensive coordinators up at night. So they'll
be watching his ass because it's Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, it's Cortland Sutton. That's right. And Denver's had their issues on defense too, but somehow they find a way to figure it out. And if you know what, you're going to be playing catch up in this game, it's going to be hard to beat Josh Allen. Don't forget about James Cook, who was an excellent freaking running back. He was second in the league, I think, this year. No, I think he led the league in rushing touchdowns. Actually,
he was underrated and not even talked about in the running backs.
Oh man, I picked him up on both my fantasy teams, like in the 4th round, and I'm like, what a steal! I'm like, this guy's gonna kill it. Love it. Well, that's the AFC, and we'll find out who the Chiefs will play next week. Let's move to the NFC, guys, and we got intriguing matchups here, starting with Green Bay at Philly. The 7th seed at the number 2 seed, David. Really interesting matchup here. Green Bay, one of the youngest teams in the league. They were going back to the playoffs. They were there last year. They beat Dallas. They almost beat the 49ers, scared the hell out of us. So we know they can play. No Christian Watson, but not as big a deal as most people would think, because they don't really have a number 1 wide receiver. They go to
another team.
Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, whoever it may be, Romeo Doubs. Josh Jacobs is the charger of that offense, man. He makes it go. I give Green Bay a chance in this game because I'm unsure about Jalen Hurts' health right now. Now, if he's able to beat Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia should win, no problem. And especially because that defense is as good as they are. They have been even underrated as good as they've been all year. So Philly at home, I feel, has got to get the win. But if Jalen Hurts is not his complete self, then I guess they're going to really have to rely on Saquon Barkley to have a masterful game.
Yeah, if they're smart, I think they'll just hand the ball to Saquon 30 times just to kind of get out of there with a win. They're trying to avoid the stigma, from the meltdown that they had last year. Right. And if I'm Sirianni, their coordinators, I'm just like, you know what? Kind of like the Bulls used to do with Jordan. Just give them the ball and get that out of the way. So I see kind of Philly winning that game, kind of handily. But anything, we've seen surprises before in the NFL, but I don't think we're going to see a surprise in that game. I don't know.
No, I would agree with you in big time, more in part because of that defense. But it's a little weird, Kenny. I like to look at the betting lines. I'm a gambler. And I see that the Philadelphia Eagles are only 4.5-point favorites in this game. To me, it's like they should be about a touchdown favorite.
At home, they're only giving them 1 point, technically, right?
Really? Yes. So that's a little bit of a head scratcher. That means they definitely think Green Bay has got to punch his chance over here.
And you mentioned you were a gambler because you watched the line, and the line is 4, and they know what they're talking about. They know something that we don't know.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it because they keep taking my money. Yeah. So, they definitely know something.
They're just holding it for you.
I wish that would be true. I love it.
You can have it back, but you got to win it.
Oh, man. Well, does Green Bay have a chance going into Philly, Kenny?
Here's what I like. I've said this before to you. When a game is a tough one, this is a tough one for me. When it's tough, I make it simpler. If Jalen Hurts plays and Saquon are playing, I'm taking Philly and their defense all day.
Okay.
If Jalen Hurts is out, I'm worried about it. But Packers are gonna. I say give the ball to Jacobs as much as you can. I don't want Love throwing the ball in the playoffs. We've seen what happened. He has an issue with some turnovers when it's a pressure moment, I think. And the Eagles are a really good defense. And my man throws interceptions. Yeah. And I just see that as being a problem.
Yeah, he could definitely do that. He can have the jitters and turn the ball over. Sometimes he makes throws, 40, 50 yards deep, and it's like, why are you throwing that ball? There are 3 defenders around that receiver. I don't get it.
And I don't want to disrespect Matt LaFleur real quick before you move on, but Matt LaFleur has his issues in the playoffs. I mean, he goes 13-3 every year, but he never wins the playoffs. So, that is an issue as well. I got to point to Philly.
This ain't the Dallas Cowboys that they're playing this year in the playoffs. So they're not going to go into Philly and roll like they did the Cowboys last year.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love is he's good, but I think he's one of the most up and down quarterbacks, especially the last half of the season. But yeah, I don't see them hanging with Philly for too long.
And he has a finger issue or something right now as well, right? A broken finger or a broken thumb or something.
Yeah. He's practicing, but yeah, he's got a little something. We'll see if it does.
I'd love to see this game with both of the starting quarterbacks out. That would be incredible. Malik.
Oh God! Again, I want to see the starters, man. I don't want to see freaking Kenny Pickett playing. Get that out of here.
Well, he's just going to hand it off to Saquon. He's going to hand it off to Saquon anyway.
Actually, Malik Willis has been a pretty decent freaking backup this year. I got to tell you.
That's why it would be there. Then it would be pretty interesting. Yeah.
How about that? Well, I think both teams should be running the ball. So I don't know, maybe the under in that game. You would think that with 2 pretty good offenses like that. But all right, we're all on Philly, all on the home team. Philly, by the way, David, was my preseason Super Bowl pick. So I'm going to kind of.
I remember that.
Yeah.
All right, the next one we got is Washington at Tampa Bay. Now, this game is really intriguing. David, you talked about Baker earlier. We talked about Jaden earlier, talking about comeback player and offensive rookie of the year, if you want to put them in those categories. They got their teams humming right now, but who's going to hum more, bro?
I'm afraid to touch this one.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm afraid to touch this one, man, because it could go either way. However, do you trust a rookie in the playoffs, a rookie quarterback in the playoffs? And I think that's what it's going to come down to. Jaden Daniels, for everything that he's done this year to the positive, it's very difficult for a rookie quarterback to win in the playoffs. And I think, I'm not going to say Tampa Bay's on a mission. I think that's overstating it a little bit. But I do think that they have enough with the running game and with Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, and a pretty decent defense. Todd Bowles is he's known to give rookie quarterbacks a hard time with some of the schemes that he can come up with. So I'm going to take Tampa in this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is a double-digit victory by the Bucs.
It all makes sense, and the way the Tampa's been playing, even in that last game against New Orleans, where they were down in the beginning of the game, and they said, you know what, screw this shit, we're coming back, and they ended up taking control and winning that game really with no problem toward the end, and giving Mike Evans his 1,000 yards to tie the one great Jerry Rice over there with the 11 consecutive seasons.
Incredible.
David, I hear everything you're saying on this one. Something is telling me that Washington's going to win. I don't know what it is. It's the Jaden Daniels calm, cool, confident factor. He can get it done. They got a really good running game. You mentioned their wide receivers. They don't really have anybody out there, but McLaurin continues to make plays. Zach Ertz will make a play here and there. And that defense under Dan Quinn has gotten a lot better. Baker Mayfield is prone to make a mistake here and there. I think this is one of those games where we see a couple of mistakes. I really do. And don't forget, now, I like what Baker's been doing with his legs a lot, especially in that last game. Very impressive. But I'm not going to compare him to Jaden fucking Daniels, all right, running the ball. No. Jaden Daniels can turn it around, all right? If the play is not happening downfield and you give him a little bit of time, that man will take off for 20 yards, no problem, and keep the drive going. I have more confidence that Washington will keep their drives going and be able to get a couple of more stops in Tampa Bay. I'm going with the away team on this one, guys.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be surprised.
No, I think this is one of those games where it's like, you know what, I can see that happening either way. But You know, I know Tampa would love to get this win. They won a playoff game last year, and then I forgot who took them out. Was it the Rams in the second round? I don't even remember, but whoever it was, Washington, Kenny, I got them this time, man. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to beat Tampa.
Well, you know, I've been loyal to them all year because Jaden Daniels was a guy I drafted for my fantasy team. So I was all over them. I've watched every play that Jaden has been out there for this year. He only struggled when he was hurt for a little while, and after that, he was fine. He's incredible. He's definitely one of the best, hottest new talents in the NFL, Jaden Daniels. But no way, I don't think he wins this game either. I think that what's going to determine this game is the running game. Does Brian Robinson Jr. have a good game running? Does Bucky Irving have a good game running? They're going to take up a lot of time. There's not going to be time to throw. And let me tell you something about Jaden Daniels. As someone, like I said, I've seen all his plays. I've watched him every Sunday, everything he does. He can go 0 and out, 3 incomplete passes in a row. I've seen him do it a lot of times. I see that happening as well. I don't think he has a turnover in this game, but I just think that with Baker's experience, Mike Evans healthy, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Jalen, I mean, it's very hard, I think, to stop the Buccaneers from scoring, and so that's what I'm going to go with. And they're home. And Tampa's feeling it now. They love it. They won that Super Bowl, and they're like licking their chops every year now.
I feel like one road team has got to win, so I'm going to go with Washington on that one. One of them's
that's a great pick because Washington is certainly capable of winning it.
They are. 12-5, guys. 12-5 they were this year. Let's not forget that. And Tampa won by 1 game in the NFC South, and they, 10-7. They had a decent year, not too bad, but had to squeak by Atlanta and a rookie quarterback. All right, I'm alone on that one. We'll see who wins it. Our last game is on Monday night, and that would be the Minnesota Vikings, who we've talked a lot about already on this show, going against the Rams, who we have not talked about, and the fact that they won a Super Bowl a few years ago with Cooper Kupp. Now they got Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, and they can score. But, David, there's something about the Rams I just can't get on board with. They can win any game, and they can lose any game easily more than any other team I've seen. They can score 12 points, and they can score 42 points. I don't know what Rams team I'm going to get. I feel like Minnesota, despite what we saw last week against the Lions, is a more consistent team. I like the defense better. I'm afraid that Cooper Kupp is going to get hurt on like any play coming up, and he's not having that great of a year.
All right, he hasn't done much second half.
He really hasn't.
No.
Really. I just don't trust the Rams, David.
No, the Rams to me are one of those teams that, and it's we hear this phrase all the time. When they're on, they're as good as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I think Sean McVay gets in his own head. I think he tries to get too creative. Hey, I'm Sean McVay. Everybody's a guru. Everybody says this, that, and the other. Like you say, they'll have a game like they did against Buffalo. Where they go off the hill beaters, and they'll let people lose to the Carolina Panthers or you and Kenny, on a given week. But it's just, I'm with you. The consistency isn't there. On any given Saturday, Sunday, Monday, they can beat anybody. But I just do think that the Vikings are locked in. I'm going to say the Vikings aren't going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know. They may. We'll talk about that, some other time. But I'm not a big trusting guy with the Rams right now. They've had their 3-4 world beater game this year. I think their luck is going to run out. I think they might get smoked. They might get smoked in the game by the Vikings.
It's possible. Even Minnesota on the road, I could see it. This game may not even be played in California, as a matter of fact, because of all the wildfires. That
Arizona, man.
I think we're booked already that they were going to play it in Arizona. I have to double check.
Is that a done deal already? Okay.
I thought I heard something earlier today that they were playing that in Arizona. I could be wrong.
And you're probably going to have 50% Minnesota fans there anyway. They travel.
Maybe more.
They travel well.
Yeah,
those Nordic folks travel well.
Yeah, right, no doubt. So, Kenny, that's the thing. I feel that Minnesota's a more consistent team, and if I had to pick a team on any day, it'd be them. Let me mention real quick before you get your pick in, because I see we got some Penn State chatter over here by Sentinel. Sentinel, I got Penn State plus 1.5 and under the 40, whatever the hell it was. So I feel pretty good right now about my chances.
Blasphemy.
Take Notre Dame.
Against Our Lady.
Oh, you went with Notre Dame? You went with the Irish?
Notre Dame is my
I went with
team.
the Irish. I hate them. I hate Penn State.
You know
James
what?
Franklin can't win big games, man.
Here's what I think about the Vikings-Rams game. I think that the Rams, they have to be able to throw the ball, which you can on the Vikings. But what will open up the pass is the run, and I don't think Kyron Williams is going to have a great game trying to run against Minnesota. And so I think that that's what it'll be. I think that not being able to run with Kyron the way they normally do is going to stop the passing game being so dominant, and I think the Vikings will definitely pull this out.
Okay, so we're on the Vikings on this one. All right. Yeah, they've been the better team all year. Let's not sneeze at 14-3 and just having one bad game. You know,
Right. I can't.
Right.
I had to say the Vikings are for real.
Yeah. Kevin O'Connell is a very good coach and somebody who we didn't mention for coach of the year who is definitely in the running for it. Let's not kid ourselves right now. Sam Darnold, 14-3. Yeah, thank you very much.
A lot of good coach.
Yeah, not too bad. To end this segment out, we're going to make our predictions now. It's hard. We got the Lions with the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Chiefs with the number 1 seed in the AFC. We talked about our matchups, who we think is going to win Wild Card Weekend, but who's going to win it all? All right, who wants to go first? Who's going to take it? Who we going to see in the Super Bowl?
Ooh. We'll let the guest let the guest go first.
I'll let the guests think about it for a minute, and
okay.
as I will tell you that I did pick the Eagles in the beginning of the year, as you know, Kenny. So I'm going to stick with Philly. I have to. I'm not going to jump ship now.
Did you say Philly and Kansas City? Is that what you said?
No, I had Cincinnati. I had
Okay.
Cincinnati, which
I
is
would have liked that
obviously
better.
not going to happen. So
I
that's
would have
not
liked
gonna
that game much better, but I mean, I think I can't go against the Chiefs, Andy Reid and
It's
Spagnuolo.
hard. I know.
It's impossible to not say the Chiefs. So I'm going to say the Chiefs beating the Bills in the playoffs, likely. I mean, it's just probably what's going to happen. And as far as
That's what
NFC
does happen.
goes, I really like the Eagles too. I've said it all year, and it's hard to do that because as a Niner fan, you get a lot of crap for that. But since day one, I've also been saying that the Eagles are the real deal. Detroit had a possibility to be that team, but with all the injuries, that was really and like you and we talked about, they didn't even get worse with the injuries, but with the injuries, it doesn't help. And so I think the Eagles are just slightly a better team right now.
Yeah, Philly. I think that in the NFC Championship, your team is going to meet up with Philly, David, and I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit won. Not at all. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is unbelievable. That guy is an
Most electrifying man in the
Great.
sport.
Yeah,
just
big play.
unreal. My nickname for them, David, by the way, when Montgomery was healthy, was not Sonic and Knuckles. It was Rhythm and Bruise, kind of
Rhythm
going
and
over.
Bruise.
I like, you know what?
Yeah,
Let's print these shirts up right
yeah.
now.
You need to copyright that.
I do. I don't know how to do that, but somebody's going to have to do
Trademark.
that for me.
Trademark it.
I got to
But
trademark.
you know, if the Lions had not gotten the number 1 seed and the bye, which they probably needed more than anybody in the league right now,
Agreed.
probably because Philly was the one team in the league that scared me when it came to blocking the Lions and getting to the Super Bowl. But since the Lions did get the bye, they did get the number 1 seed. They do have home field advantage. It's going to be real tough to go to Ford Field, man, and beat them. The running game of the Eagles kind of plays into the strength of the Lions. For all the injuries, the middle of the defense. You know, they got Anzalone back. Jack Campbell's playing outstanding. There's a possibility that they can get anyway, Derek Barnes. There's a possibility they can get him back as well. I just don't see Philly being able to score enough points when the rubber meets the road. Nobody in the league can score like the Lions. But I did predict them losing to the Bills, and if they go to the Super Bowl and face the Bills, I kind of see a repeat. But this time, as far as what Josh Allen does, but I see a different result. And your Detroit Lions will be the 2024-25 NFL Super Bowl champions.
I
Be a
would
good
not be
story.
mad at that. I would not be mad at that at all. I got a friend that I go back with since we're like 12 years old. He's been a lifelong Lions fan forever because he loved Barry Sanders. He sticks with it. He went to San Francisco last year to the NFC Championship game just to watch his Lions and everything. It would be a nice, heartwarming story. It's like the Lions. They got their first Super Bowl. They finally won. It's great. But
especially after redeeming themselves after we beat them last playoffs, them beating us this time at the end of the year like that to get their, their little revenge.
And that was such an impressive win over Minnesota. It cannot be stated enough. Aaron Glenn, you may have got yourself a head coaching job with that one, man. I mean, and that's what kind of sucks for Dan Campbell. He may lose both of his coordinators after this year, especially if they win the whole thing.
Hey, that's what happens when you're a good team.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Philly a couple of years, even though they lost. That's what happened to Philly a couple of years ago, and then now they replaced, and now they got new guys. But I think we'll see Detroit and Philly match up at the NFC Championship, and most likely Buffalo and Kansas City. I want to pick Buffalo so bad. I just don't. I've learned my lesson. I can't pick against them anymore. I can't pick against Kansas City. They're just so freaking good, and they're getting better. They've gotten better as the year went on. So I think I got to go with Kansas City and Philly in a rematch, which I don't want to see. I'd rather see Detroit and Buffalo. I would much rather see two teams that never won it, guaranteed.
Cincinnati, Detroit, anything else.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a help.
Yeah.
You and your Cincinnati, I know you wish they were in the playoffs.
I can't believe they didn't make it. I was so sure.
Yeah. No. It's all because Kansas City laid down that they were afraid of Cincinnati, as somebody said.
And that shows their fear. It was a smart move, though, but that showed some fear right there.
They needed to rest. That's all they needed. They know how to freaking play this shit. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. All right, we have gone on for an hour and a half talking football. It felt like about 5 minutes. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I have had a blast tonight, really. Absolutely great. David.
I appreciate you guys for having me on, man.
It's been a long time coming, and it's been well worth the wait, my friend.
Yeah. Great to finally meet you.
Appreciate it.
No doubt. All right. Any quick shout-outs before we get on out of here? Because I'm going to watch Penn State 10-0 and make sure this game stays under over here.
Quick shout-out to my family. I know I had a couple of my family members, my wife, my daughter. I think my son was chiming in a little bit. They were watching for a little bit. Shout out to my boy Tyler McCurd, Fat Boy Fadeaway. Be sure to check those guys out too on the Fat Boy Fadeaway podcast. Shout out to the city of Detroit. Shout out to the two of you for having me on. I appreciate it. We definitely got to do this again sometime. Just wishing everybody the best. Thanks for all the people that chimed in on the comments, and thanks for sticking with us for this hour and 88 minutes now. And it's been a hell of a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys.
It has. When you go an hour and a half and it feels like 5 minutes, you're having a great time. And we got to appreciate Sentinel and McNiner and Steve-O and everybody for chiming in over here. And you guys bringing in, it's been great. Just an absolute great show. Loved it. And I love doing this. Alexander, Papa J, all you guys. Really appreciate it, man. Awesome. And just like, our man, Mr. Primetime over here, hit us up on the YouTube channel. If you want to come on, we're going to have you on, man. We're a loving show. This is what we do. It's all about the football, baby. Yeah. Football and love. Football and love. The new movie coming out. All right, boys. Here we go. Wild Card Weekend coming up. It's been a blast. We'll do it again. Primetime. Definitely going to do this again, bro. I'll hit you up for sure.
Rhythm and Brews, baby.
Rhythm and Brews, baby. We got to trademark that right now. We got to do that.
Hurry up, so you can sell the shirts this year.
You're right. I got to get Montgomery's got to get healthy. I got to get on this thing.
Somebody said he's coming back. I hope so.
I hope so too, man.
It's a long shot.
All right. Well, Power 32 podcast. We're out of here for now. We'll see you guys next week for the divisional round. All right. Peace, everybody.
Peace.